voted to move forward with the architect project to determine the feasibility of where to go next with regard to the elementary schools. The purpose of this study or project that they're proposing to spend this money on here tonight, which you're going to be asked to approve $54,800 plus an additional, I believe Dr. Lombardo mentioned $28,000 in the budget forward. Those two items would be phase 1 and phase 2 of this project, and that would help the board understand the best way to move forward with the elementary school projects. Are we going to go with one school and close 3? Are we going to go with 3 renovated schools? Are we going to go with 2 renovated schools and close 1? Those are the questions that they feel they need answers for. This money has been raised by the Learn rent fees that are brought into the town as a result of what Learn pays for their for their rent, and I believe they're in Lily B mostly. So this is what they're asking for. This is phase 1 of 2, and you'll be considering that other phase when you consider their budget.
I have one question. Maybe we'll start. The 91,400 then becomes some number less.
That was the first time I heard the number of 28,000 this evening from Dr. Lombardo. So my sense is it would be 54,800 plus 28,000. And I don't know if they're nodding their head up and down or side to side behind me.
No.
So up and down. So.
So it becomes roughly 72 and change.
Yeah, 72.8 maybe, right?
Okay.
82.8.
I think there is a
82.8. 82.8.
82.8.
You're right, 82 and change.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Can we
Then
discuss?
then we'll discuss it after the
Okay.
motion.
Move to approve a special appropriation in capital non-reoccurring CNRE Fund 32 in the amount of $54,800 to an account to be established titled Architect East Lyme Elementary Schools. Source of funds is to be Learn rent fees.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded. Any discussion? Starting from my right, Mr. Carpentieri. Any questions?
No.
Mr. Harney?
No, sir.
Ms. Piccarazzi?
So, yeah, there's a note in here. The Board of Ed formed a design firm selection committee to recommend an architectural firm to develop the necessary information to bring the elementary school project to a town referendum. So I'm struggling a little bit with horse and cart here.
What, and then we can get Dr. Hagan to fill in the blanks, but my understanding is the first phase of this is to understand which of the ways to go, and then the second phase of this would be to help to bring the necessary information to the public referendum that may occur should the Board of Education decide to send this project forward.
Well,
A lot of it has to do with, I think, reimbursement from the state and process moving forward.
So I don't really have any answers here, but what I'm worried about is that we're going to spend this money on architectural fees and come up with some design. And to be honest, this has been a very emotional decision. And I'm worried that we're going to spend the money on this, and when it goes to the public to vote, all of that could go right out the window because there's a lot of people that have passion about their position, and then this whole design and money spent will be for naught. So it's hard for me to get behind this.
Okay.
Did you want somebody from the Board of Ed to
Well,
answer that question, or do you want me to try to? Take a
Whoever
shot at
can give me a little clarity, I'd be grateful.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Lisa, I think sometimes when you have to put something out for a referendum, you want to give the most information for the voters to make an informed choice, and in terms of what the Board of Ed might need and what the state would require, instead of just estimating. And yeah, you can get shot down, that's the public's right to vote no.
Okay.
Lisa, great, perfect question. In fact, one of the things we did was the last summer, after we had done an initial some visioning work as to what to do, we saw how emotional making changes in our elementary school system or schools is. But the fact of the matter is that because the schools are aging, they need significant repair. We probably have more space than what we really need to support the enrollment that we have. And there's an imbalance of enrollment across the facilities as well. We felt that we really needed to take action, and we needed to do it in a very professional, correct sort of way, so that we get to an answer that is the right answer for the kids, for the parents, for the teachers, for the administration, but most importantly for the entire community. That we make whatever we decide to do is the right thing to do for the long term. And that brought us to saying we really need to get professional help in making that choice. And so with the help of Ray O'Connor and several other people, we had a committee that interviewed architects for doing this work. And in fact, the architectural firm that we selected is the firm that actually just did the 5-year project with Waterford, trying to figure out how to go from 5 schools to 3 schools. And the architectural firm is Jakunski and Hume, and Al Jakunski will be the principal on this. And he is, his task will be to help us define what the right vision is and help us then communicate and work with the entire community to figure out the path forward. It is going to be, and Lisa, you're absolutely right, it is going to be an emotional discussion, but with the help from the architect, laying out the options, laying out all the facts around quality of education, all the way to the financial components of it. That's the way to go about doing this. Elsewise, if we don't, what we're going to be doing is burying more money into old structures that will just continue need to be renovated and upgraded and so forth.
Yeah, don't misunderstand my question in terms of, I definitely think we need to do something. I mean, we've been saying that for the last several years when we reviewed the budget. So taking action is the right thing to do. I think what I'm struggling a little bit with is, for me, there's not a clear path to get from here to there. I'm a little, like I said, you just talked about the firm in Waterford. Their charter was to go from 5 to 3. The path is laid out. The goal was to consolidate from 5 to 3. There's been options here, renovating, consolidating the school and that. So I'm not, the overreaching goal is to improve the facilities.
Yes.
It's not clear how we're going to do that. And like I said, I don't know how we could come up with these wonderful renderings, put them before the town, and they could all be shot down.
Yeah. No, I follow you completely. There'll be multiple phases to it, engagement with the community to develop the right options. Another big piece of it is developing the educational specifications for the facilities also. So that's another big part. All of that has to get pulled together such that we can figure out what the reimbursement rate from the state would be for making whatever improvements we decide to do, so that when we ultimately, at the end of this phase, go to the taxpayers and say, here's how much money it's going to require, we will know what that reimbursement rate is going to be from the state. So you'll know very firmly what the total price tag is. And the only way you can do that is you have to spend the money with the professional assistance of an architectural firm that basically specializes in doing school renovations or building new schools.
So last year, I think we had a brief presentation about this, and there were 3 options presented.
Yes.
And they all were in the $300,000 range. What am I thinking of? There was some 3 million. They were very close.
It's
not 300,000.
Yeah, they were like in the range of, I think,
33 million?
Yeah, like
Okay.
30 to $40 million.
So what did that study do for us? I mean,
That study was basically, it cost us nothing, except for the time that the committee members put into it. We had a little bit of free services from a couple of consultants in doing that. It basically got us to tee up the magnitude of the change that would have to be considered. And with that, again, we had a lot of feedback from the community, which then the board said, well, we're going to have to really put together a very tight package to figure out exactly how to go about doing this, and we're going to need professional help to do that. And that's why we're here with the request for the appropriation.
so I guess what I would offer for your consideration, so that we don't get in a situation in the town where we are throwing away good money on
Right.
this. And I'm going to say again, I clearly support the overreaching goal.
Yeah.
I wonder if it wouldn't be fruitful to lay out a plan that says, okay, step one is going to be, to be clear, we're going to evaluate the options of closing closing Niantic Center. And then, in other words, that's going to be like an option that we need to consider. I'm just...
Then that's what the architect is going to do. The design firm they specialize in obviously putting together options together, but also engaging and working with all of us to figure out what's the right thing to do. And they will basically then serve as the moderator, the facilitator for countless community engagements, as well as presentations to Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, Board of Education, in terms of figuring out what the right thing to do is. So you're right on, and I think maybe what you're also requesting is that as we begin the process and spending and using this funding, it would be very prudent for us to make sure that the Board of Finance hears the initial steps and the overall game plan that's being laid out. And that's what, once we have approval to go forward with this, that was basically one of the first steps we will have.
Yeah, I think what I'm saying too is we really owe it to the taxpayers to ensure
Absolutely.
that this money is not wasted.
Yes.
And we don't go through this study and then find out, put it to a vote, and then everybody goes, those drawings are really nice, but we don't want to close that school.
That's right. Yep.
That could happen. That's life, and this is what prepares it to be a rational, reasonable decision with getting all the information to the taxpayer.
Yeah, that's
Try
right,
to
Beth.
take
I mean,
that out of it.
there is a risk. But again, also the incentive for the architect is to come up with a solution that will be the right solution, such that it that the community will say, yes, that is the right thing to do, and making sure that the community has made that decision. And that's why we need professional help. You just can't do this by yourself. Good questions, Lisa. Very right on the money.
I think, are they all part of the process? This is going to be not only making the decision with the Board of Education, but providing public outreach in terms
Yep.
of
Oh, absolutely.
public discussion.
Absolutely.
So that if they say, geez, we're thinking about closing Niantic Center School, or we're thinking about adding a second story to Lily B. Haynes, or whatever it happens to be, that's not going to be coming as a final project and then asking for input. I think they're going to be asking for
Okay,
input
well,
along the way.
that's what I'm
and I
getting
think-
at. I don't want to see this architectural product come back.
And go here, and
Here
everybody
it is.
goes,
No. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, no.
yeah.
Well, no, but it's not exactly out of the realm of possibility unless we're very clear in communicating with the public, what is it that you're looking for? And then the architect supports the town's needs.
Yeah, in the request for the bid, for the proposal and everything, all of that was laid out in terms of holding community forums,
Okay.
doing option, all that detail is in there, and it's all part of the first 2 years. Yeah, we certainly can
Yeah,
give
that
you
would- that'd be
a
helpful.
copy of the RFP, which
Okay.
went out. That
All
would
right,
be very
I think I articulated my concern.
good. Yes, but that is a good, very good concern.
Ms. O'Berry.
Yeah, that is a very good question, Lisa. Thank you for bringing it up. I think what would help me in that regard is that if there was a deliverable attached to Phase 1 and Phase 2,
There-
and I think that exists somewhere, it's
Yes,
just
it does.
it's not in our packet.
You don't have it in your packet?
Right.
Yeah,
So,
we'll get you that information. It is very clearly spelled
yeah,
out.
what are we going to get when we expend that amount of money?
Yeah.
So that we can, we
Yeah.
know what the deliverable is.
Yep.
Right,
yep.
because
And
necessary
set our
information is kind of,
expectations.
excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
that's okay.
But you're right, necessary information is somewhat nebulous.
Mm-hmm.
What are we
Yeah,
buying?
We have
Right.
all that's delineated in the contract. So
Right. I
we'll-
just
we'll
think
get
it's-
that to the Board of
yeah,
Ed,
that
I mean,
would be
to the
great.
Board of Finance.
I'd also like to take this opportunity, because I don't think I've done it before in public, to thank the Vision Task Force. I know they've worked on it for a couple of years. I know there was a number of people from the community, the schools, and I know a lot of hard work went into it. All volunteer work. I really sincerely appreciate it. I do feel like we're moving the ball forward, even though I know it kind of started when I moved here 9 years ago, but it is moving. I do think this is a good idea to get professional help in this regard. I would question, though, whether it is possible, since the task force has pretty much outlined the scenarios in order of their preference. And one preference, the least favorable option was to keep the Niantic Center School open.
There is no preference. No priority, no preference.
Oh, I thought there was a preference 1, 2, and
In the-
3.
yeah,
They're numbered, they're options.
Yeah.
They're options. That's
There
it.
are options.
Well,
not by
there's
preference.
numbers in here
Yeah.
that very specifically say who voted for what,
Yeah.
and some are weighted more heavily than
That was the
others.
vision committee, though. It came to the board, though, it was laid out as, it was laid out, when it actually came to the board, it was laid out as 3 options. We purposely
got
didn't
the
want
mic out.
1, 2, or 3 labeled on there,
Okay.
for that simple reason. Basically, there's 3 options to choose from. That's all.
Okay.
Because by labeling, like you're saying, indicating, it may indicate our preference. Well, that's really not what we're here for.
Right.
We're getting professional help to get the
I
community's
understand.
input.
And I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, but
I do.
basically, there's 3 options. You call them A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, makes no difference. Change the numbers around, makes no difference.
Okay.
So I just want to say, there's no preference, we've stated no preference.
Okay.
All right?
No preference on the part of the task force. I guess I
No,
have,
it's Board of Ed.
Definitely on the Board of Ed, we basically heard the discussion. We had a little bit of a flavor for kind of a ranking of the preferences and so forth. Board of Ed looked at it, spent time thinking about it, and said, we really need to bring in a professional architect to really.
and
take
I
us to the
think,
next step.
again, I think that is a good idea. What I'm struggling with is that some of the numbers that stood out for me in this evaluation presentation is that the Niantic Center School is costing $2,500 per pupil more than the other 2 schools, with a continuing declining enrollment. If we were to, we know that we have to do something someday. Maybe we'll pay for the architectural fees and it won't get passed in referendum this year. That doesn't mean that perhaps it can't get passed the subsequent year or the year after that. At some point, we're going to be faced with a problem where we have to do something. So, my question is, if we think that we're leaning towards a consolidation, maybe to 2 facilities or 1, would it be prudent to shutter Niantic Center School and save the taxpayers of this town $450,000 a year to go toward the construction costs of the new facilities?
What are you going to do with the kids?
Redistribute
Good.
them.
Yeah, good.
Right.
Yeah, good question. A couple of things. One is the Board of Ed has an ad hoc committee that has been commissioned with preparing the board to have conversations about redistricting of the elementary school children. So that's one thing. And in terms of how do you go about looking at it, what's the impact and the like. So we're doing that. We felt that what's really important is to get through phase 1 with the architect to then say, okay, this looks to be the game plan. We've had the discussion with all of the community members. This is kind of the big pictures which we're going to be driving toward. At that point, then, you can then rationally make some decisions about then what is the next logical thing to do, okay? But until we actually have the professional help to get us to that point, I think it's relatively a short time frame. Once the architect is up and running to get to that point, then we can start to make those next steps, which could go down a path that you just outlined, or something else. So, but that's what we've had those conversations and thought it's best to kind of do it, spend the money, and do it right, and then start to make the adjustments. So
Okay.
good comments.
So what are we paying for $91,000? Are we going to come back with one plan, two plans?
It's actually in the contract with the architect. Actually, will come out with I think it's 5 options will be produced. There'll be at least 3 to really vent or to have these conversations with the community, and then there's a backup one, and then there's the final one that would actually go to referendum. So and the way it's all priced out and so forth, it has to do with the architect and then having to subcontract out all of the necessary pieces that have to be looked at. Because ultimately you have to come up, when you go to referendum, you have to come up with a number that is absolutely correct, okay? So that you know exactly how much you're going to be asking for, and you also know how much you're going to be getting back in reimbursement from the state.
So, all right, well, that helps me. So this $91,000 or whatever
Or
the number,
80, whatever.
$82,000, we won't receive any design drawings of any kind.
Oh, in the end, at the end, you will have the ed specs, you will have the whole depiction of what the proposal is going to look like. I mean, if it's going to be 2 schools, 3 schools, or whatever.
Okay, so, but it's not just a narrative, it will
Oh,
include
no.
some
Oh, no.
drawings.
You're going to have the whole thing. Then, once it's then approved, if it's approved, hopefully approved, by the town, then you go into phase 3, which then they actually then start putting together literally the design
Right.
specifications
Okay.
of, the nail goes here and,
Yeah,
and
got
all
that.
stuff.
All right, so we will be receiving 5 options with narratives of each and accompanied drawings
Oh, yeah.
to consider.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
great,
Lots
thanks.
of detail.
Is all that in the RFP?
Yeah, it's all in the RFP and it's all spelled out in the contract, which
Why don't we
you
get
guys
a copy of that, and this has to go to a town meeting?
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get that to you.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Ms. Hogan?
Thanks. I'm glad Mr. Littlefield clarified that, because I do think this has been going on for a while, and it's not anyone's fault. It's just the nature of the beast. But there are people thinking that there was already a predetermination, and I'm not weighing in because I have no
Dog in the fight.
interest in terms of emotional. But I do understand that these things are emotional. But what I'm saying is, I thought that was correct. And every time I kind of said, no, I really don't think, I think they're putting all the preferences there. The architect's going to engage the people, look at those, and kind of there's going to be a coalition on what is the best option with the preliminary cost estimate and et cetera to get it ready for the referendum. And I know it's not going to go through a referendum this year.
No. Oh,
It
no.
might not even go next
Next
year.
year, right.
It has to be prepared in such a way to also know what is exactly the amount of reimbursable costs that they will receive from the state, and hopefully they can maybe, working with the first selectman, couple together some type of funding source for
Yep.
the actual building. But that's good because it's clarified, because I was mixed up on that. I know the vision committee and I know the Board of Ed, and all I heard was options, but I didn't hear
That's right.
ranking. So,
That's right.
and I thought I was wrong. Okay, the second question, I just had a question with the rents. Now, you're taking the CNRE rental amount from the Lily B. Haynes, the program there, the rent fees, learn rent fees. What was that rent fee usually used for?
That rent fee was used for a number of different things. There's school security dollars coming out of that, and this money's coming out of that. Again, I can give you a breakdown.
Yeah.
Don, were you getting up behind me? I can see you in the camera. Okay.
In the past, we put windows into Lily B. Haynes. That was about 3-4 years ago. We've also done the roof, which is about maybe 2 years ago. So I think those are the only
So
two
but
items.
this year, when you looked at your rent roll and what came in, you were already thinking, I'm gonna pay the
Well,
architect, the design for that? That was your plan for this year?
Well, speak with Anna knows that she's the keeper of the funds, but I believe by the end of this year, Anna, you can back me up, we're gonna have about 151,000 in that fund. And
I think they were looking for
You're
sources.
using a portion of it, though, for this appropriation.
Yes, exactly. I'm just saying how much is in there, and that's why we knew there was sufficient funds in there for this.
And that doesn't impact any other plans that you had in terms of the funds for the Learn Rent program, for any other
How much is left?
No. You-
projects that you were going to do?
yeah. Well, should I speak, Anna, or? Between the two funds, there's going to be approximately $200,000 between at the end of this year and next year. And as Paul just brought up, we have matching funds for security, which is going to take up about 105,000 of it, I believe.
So it's not going to impact anything that you're already using the rent for?
It's,
No.
Okay.
Learn is paying this rent every year. They're looking at, at taking this 58,000. There was also 100 and something thousand for school security coming out of here. We're going to use some LoSiP funds, I think, for that too as well.
So we're all set.
So that, Anna tells me there's going to be about 100,000 left after this appropriation,
That's fine.
and then their rent is due in next fiscal year, so.
Okay, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, do I have a motion?
We already made
Already
it,
made
man.
a
I know it was a
motion.
long
Motion
time
made
ago.
and seconded.
Right.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 6-0. We're going to have a presentation on the boardwalk. Following the presentation on the boardwalk is an appropriation for the boardwalk. Following that, just to let everybody know, we'll take a 5-minute break and then go on with the rest of the agenda.
So you want to go
You want a break now?
Yeah, let's break while he's setting up.
break now? Okay, so the